Today we're going to talk about our first club from Serbia, known as Crvena Zvezda, or in English, Red Star Belgrade. This is their away kit from 2020 and a really sweet one from Macron. As you can see with the zigzagged white and red stripes across the middle, it's a great touch seeing as those are their home colors, vertical red and white stripes. The 3 stars above their badge give you an idea of how dominant they've been within national titles, 33, across the many different versions of top flight leagues within the Balkan region throughout their entire history. And the last items there in a very straightforward badge being their red star in the center, as well as in the top left, you'll see the F and K of Futbalski Club with this character meaning F in Cyrillic. The golden moment in their history is 1991 when they won the European Cup, becoming one of only 2 clubs from Eastern Europe ever to do so. The entire squad from 1991 holds one of the stars in the Zvezdina Zvezda, and we're going to talk about what that means in a little bit. That rendition of the European Cup was a very interesting one, seeing as it was the last one of the European Cup to be a straight knockout competition, so it didn't have the group stage that you're probably used to from any international competition these days. That means they had to go through 4 two-legged knockout ties on their way to the final against Marseille, beating Grasshopper from Switzerland, then Rangers from Scotland, and then Dynamo Dresden from Germany, and in the semifinals, Bayern Munich. They wrapped up that year by also taking the International Cup at the end of the season. Okay, into the meat of things here, and the most important thing, let's talk about the rivalry, the Eternal Derby against FK Partizan. Their 2 stadiums are located just about a kilometer away from each other in Belgrade, and these 2 viciously hate each other. And I know I say that a lot for rivalries in previous videos, but this one is on a different level. Both clubs were founded in 1945, with Red Star starting in March, a bit before Partizan in October, with the Second World War coming to an end at that time. So Red Star were founded by what became the Communist Party of Yugoslavia, and more specifically, as people will say, by the secret police of the government. Partizan were started as the sporting wing of the Yugoslav People's Army, making them more of the military presence. There's a ton more that goes into the socio-political makeup of this match, and I'll just leave it there so we can get into what the Eternal Derby matches are like. The short answer is loud, violent, and intimidating. With this being the biggest matchup in Serbia, it generally also decides the title, especially during late season matches, and it has been competed 13 times in Yugoslav as well as Serbian Cup finals. These matches draw huge amounts of attention as well as amount of fans, with their stadiums only holding 50 and about 30,000 people these days. It's not as big of a crowd as in the 60s before restrictions by UEFA, meaning that Red Star Stadium routinely would hold over 100,000 people standing for these matches. The organized supporting groups and the most passionate fans of both of these clubs generally comes under an umbrella name for both of them for the individual supporter groups, with Partizan taking on the name Grobari, which essentially means gravediggers or undertakers, and for Red Star, known as Dalia or Heroes. Crvena Zvezda are more successful in this matchup as far as wins and generally for stretches of dominance within the country's national titles and cups. Beyond Partizan, they do have 2 traditional rivals, Hajduk Split as well as Dinamo Zagreb of Croatia, although the 2 have not played against them in a long time, with the last time I believe being in 1990, which is a very contentious match and violent match, which had a representative element of the decline of Yugoslavia, as well as towards the beginning of the next year, the Croatian War of Independence. Their stadium is known as the Stadion Rajko Mitić, named after a previous legend of the club. It's one of the most intense and difficult places to play all around Europe, with some of the biggest clubs in the world coming there in the Champions League or Europa League and really struggling. I mentioned the concept of Zvezdina Zvezda earlier, and we're going to go into that with former players. This means stars of the Red Star, and think of it as an extremely exclusive Hall of Fame for the club, being that there are only 5 people and 1 team that hold a star within the group. First to mention is Vladimir Petrovic, who holds the 4th star and as one of their most fabled midfielders is also known by the nickname Pijan, or the Pigeon. The second name to mention is Dragan Stojkovic, known by his nickname Pixie. He holds the 5th star, is probably the finest talent that Yugoslavia as a whole ever produced on the football pitch, and is the current manager for the Serbian national team. And the last would be Darko Panchev, and while he doesn't hold a star individually, was a member of the 1991 European Cup champion team that holds the 6th star. He was most known for that season for scoring the decisive penalty in the final, as well as winning the Golden Boot across Europe with 34 goals. In their current squad, let's talk about one of their longtime servants, Alexander Katai, who holds 10th place on their all-time scoring list with 87 goals as a winger. On the other wing is a new arrival to the club in Osman Bukhari, who I expect you're going to see at the World Cup for Ghana. And finally, their captain, Milan Borjan, and their goalkeeper, who I expect you'll see at the World Cup as well for Canada. So this has been your rundown on Crvena Zvezda, also known as Red Star Belgrade.